Hi, good morning. It's Gene from maverickstar Observatory. Guys, we've got our first full month's worth of data from one of our superstars over in Canada, Kendall. Thanks for sending the data, Kendall. As you can see, it's our first months. We've had a test run of the data. This is the first one. There's a couple of little anomalies there. I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm not going to edit them out, but I think if those two big dips first, the small one, and then there's a slightly one, probably 3 times as large as the first anomaly, as you can see, where it drops all of a sudden 1 microtesla and then picks back up after a certain point in time. We're going to leave it and we'll see what we get next month. But you can see it starts off just touching the 60 mark, and then at the end of the chart, at the end of the month, it's starting to leave that mark. Now that's sort of the progressive deterioration I'd like to see constantly over the next few months with Canada. We know that it is losing its intensity in that region of the earth, so let's just wait and see how the next couple of months go on. I know for a lot of you guys, you come over onto the website, you look at these charts, not a lot always seems to be happening, and that is a good thing. If you look at anybody's magnetometer data around the world at different observatories, you'll see it's almost the same unless there is a noticeable anomaly. And I'm not saying that these are anomalies that are taking place here. They could just be random uncertainties for a number of reasons if we really want to be nitpicky. But from the bulk of the data, we can see the truth, what's going on, and you can see a slight deterioration. That is exactly what we'd expect over Canada. We've just got to be a little bit more patient and wait a few more months. I will say this, there was a little error, and I don't know what created the error yesterday on the Hong Kong data, but some of you would have watched the video and noticed that the dates was all in accordance with how they should be. But when I went on to using my mobile phone app that looks at our website, poleshiftnews.com, I noticed that there was 2 Hong Kong recent data repeated itself, and the month before that had been removed. Don't ask me what had gone on there. I went onto the website. It seemed that it was only a desktop problem and not a phone app problem, but then it seemed to be a desktop problem, so I don't know what it was. It was just unexpectedly removed for some reason. So I've re-put it back on there, and all the dates are back in line as they should be, and it's a good job that we keep all the data that we collect as a backup and an archive. Otherwise we'd never be able to do that if we just simply chucked them away. And that's why I archive all the data that we get. Like tomorrow, there's an archive of the Earth at a glance, health, so you can see what's going on. And I always keep a backup of that as well, just in case something like this happens. So as usual, I want to thank just a few people that are supporting the observatory. If I showed you a chart of the support over this year, you would see it slowly declining month on month out. Even the patrons for some reason are bailing, but we're still here, and this anomaly that we're following hasn't gone away, and we're closer to probably something happening now, and we seem to be having the least amount of support. Can you believe that? So I'm just going to say this, you know where the links are. I've told you that many times. Description, Patreon, you can go onto the website and click that button. Nobody's clicked that button in 2 weeks, by the way, on the website, and yet we still service 7,000 people. So all I'm going to say to you guys is, surprise me. Because I'm at that point where, the weeks are rolling into the next week. It's not much difference is changing, yet we're still getting 130,000 views on YouTube, 7,000 views a month. What does that total? At 28,000 views on the website, and very little support. It's a shame, but we'll leave it at that. What I wanted to talk to you about is, if COVID-19 is a cover for something else later, what would that be? I've been discussing this with a friend. He's a lot like me. He's a logical thinker, and this could serve the purpose of many scenarios. He seems to think that something could take place next month in October, and when we looked into this a little bit more, what does seem to be falling into place right now with all what's happening with COVID-19, like, flights from America not leaving America, and a lot of flight corridors, not being accessible to most of us. But more than that, like I mentioned yesterday in the video, there's 50,000 people here in the UK alone, and many more all around the world. It probably totals to millions, but they're all going to lose their houses the beginning of next month and from the months on out. The furlough system comes to an end, so that's the support system that have kept people in their jobs for the last few months. That comes to an end, so there is going to be massive redundancies as a result of that. But what could all this lead to? Who could benefit from all this? Yes, we know hedge funds can benefit from the surplus slop of houses on the market that's going to be there because people are going to be losing them. Yes. So there is that repeat of 2007 again scenario for these hedge funds to get in and make a right racket and a load of money out of that. But there's also, I believe, a criteria being met for such a bigger problem than this, and that is to have global debt cancelled out or wiped out so that we can start again, and it needs to happen. And I'll just use in America as an example. If you look at the national debt clock and spread the debt over the amount of people, nobody has that entire worth. Even if you sold everything that belonged to everyone in America, you still wouldn't pay off the national debt. And this is the same for the UK, most countries in Europe, most countries that give up their printing press for Europe and borrowed money. It's the exact same thing. And what we could see, maybe next month, maybe, I'm not saying it's going to be the case, I'm just making a little prediction here, but maybe we might see next month something dramatic happen, as much as a global reset on the global debt. And let's face it, it does need to happen, but when that does happen, right, there's going to be a lot of people like China that hold a lot of American bonds, and we know that what they're doing with the bonds, it's not just America bonds that China own, it's a lot of other bonds from around the world, from a lot of different countries. We're going to start seeing some unhappy people sit at the table, let's just put it that way, when all these bonds are worth pretty much nothing. And we know from some of the experts in the economic theatre that China have been dropping a lot of these bonds onto third world countries like India, Pakistan and places like that, and using up the bonds, because American bonds and British bonds and other countries' bonds are still have a value in these countries, and they still use some of these currencies. So an American bond is as good as any other, an English bond is as good as any other. But if you're the person when the music stops and there isn't a chair for you to sit down on, that means that bond is pretty much worthless to you. But it's just, I'm just making this assumption on what I'm seeing. There's obviously a criteria that has to be met before such a thing happens. Now, if you turn around to any government around the world that's got your bonds and say, look, we're in a hopeless situation here, we've got people by the tens of thousands losing homes, we've got people by the tens of thousands out of work, this is an economic crisis and we can't honour the bonds that we've sold you, we simply can't, we need a global reset. That's the only way we can do it. Well, using COVID-19, using the fact that people have lost their houses, lost their jobs and cannot afford to participate in the monetary system, means that you will be merging towards meeting that criteria where you can then turn around and explain to people that have brought you bonds and say, look, what can we do in this situation? We're broke. We're finished. It is the game up. We need a reset globally, because we're not the only country that's in this problem. All the other countries are in the same problem. There is no way we can pay the debt back, and we need debt forgiveness. And that, I believe, is what is being set up by the back, or on the back, of COVID-19. It is to achieve a certain criteria, and the governments around the world are purposely driving people into poverty in order to achieve that criteria. That's my thoughts on this. I don't know if you've done a little bit of research yourself. You might have come to the same conclusion if you're a logic thinker, like me and Andy was discussing this the other day. It's a horrible situation to be in. But, you know, this is a global problem. And it requires global solutions, unfortunately, because every country is in the same boat at the moment. And, you know, as a result of this criteria being met, painfully as it is, people are going to lose the houses, lose the jobs, lose the businesses. And it's sad. Was there, I ask the question, another way of resolving this matter? Maybe if we weren't so addicted to a monetary system which first of all bars us, many of us, from the resources that are on this planet already. It's only because certain people claim ownership of them that, you know, we end up having to exchange our labour for this fiat currencies that are circulating around the world, and then use those currencies to purchase the resources that we want. We've put something deliberately in our path to start with that we didn't want. So, you know, and of course, the monetary system is very easily exploitable, especially if you've got no conscience, or you put your conscience in the closet and think to yourself it's okay to put people on the streets so that you can then dip into whatever little bit of fundings they might have in savings, pensions, this, that and the other, or property. You know, if you've got no conscience, then, you know, that's, you know, exactly what you're going to do, isn't it? You're going to exploit a situation like this. You're going to get together with your hedge funds and you're going to be buying up all these cheap properties as a result of, you know, people losing their jobs, losing their properties through default on the mortgage, and, you know, you're going to profit from that. But we need to, I believe, do away with this monetary system that we're all part of, because it has passed its sell-by date. And the reason why I say that, guys, is I think it's logic. I think you'll agree with me. You know, we don't need such a labour-intensive workforce anymore. You know, cars are not built by, you know, human beings anymore. If you look in a modern-day factory that builds any cars, most of the chassis are built from robots on production lines. Most of the engines are assembled and built not by people but by robots. You know, we have achieved that point in time where technology could easily help us all become a little bit more freer in the time that we have here on this planet. And let's face it, on average 70 years we live. Don't we owe it to ourselves and to the people in the future that you know, take the reins after we leave them, to leave a better world for them, something that doesn't require so much of their time and labour? I mean, come on, we've got people that are doing 2 jobs in order to keep a roof over their head, and it's not even, you know, by any standards a luxury home. It's just a home, pretty much, very simple amenities. And nobody should, you know, I heard a story here in the UK of someone that was working 2 jobs and they died of exhaustion. This girl did. She was just trying to keep her head above water, stop her falling out into that situation where you end up on the streets, and she died of exhaustion. Should anyone in the Western world today be dying of exhaustion? It's the world we're living in, and, you know, it, at the moment, isn't getting any better. And, you know, nobody's addressing these problems with technological advancements, removing jobs. When you remove jobs, you bar people from the access of the monetary system unless you give them benefits. You give them benefits, you're just going to make them more impoverished. So, you know, where is the solution? You know, if these people were really smart, we would be talking about this a lot more, and you'd hear politicians talking about it a lot more. But, you know, if you look here in the UK, most of the ministers, most of the House of Lords are landlords, and they know how to secure not just one wage for themselves, but many very wealthy people. You know, they are, by all means, as far as I can see, parasites that are living off other people and their labour, because it is their labour that they have to use in order to convert into money and then pay the landlord. Well, if he's got 40 houses, he's getting he's using 40 people or probably 80 people, because most people these days, their partner and themselves go to work. So it's a conglomeration of their salaries coming together to pay for either the rent or the mortgage. And, you know, it's not fair, is it? That one person should be consuming so much off of so many people. But this is what has to change. Guys, I'll leave you with those thoughts. You know, I'm interested in your comments in the comment section. You know, tomorrow we'll be doing the Earth at a glance on the website, and you know, gives you an idea of what's happening. You know, in one page of this website, brings all the information together on solar activity, volcanic activity, earthquakes, the lot, you name it, muons, etc., etc. It'll all be on there tomorrow. So if you feel like supporting us, then I'm just going to say this: surprise me. Let's see if we can get some support going for the observatory. I'll leave it in your capable hands. I'm ready to be surprised. Okay, as always, guys, you take care of your loved ones. I'll be back tomorrow with the Earth at a glance, and I'll say what I usually do. Take care. Bye for now.